Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to try to remember to record the meetings. That way, if you decide you can't make it, but you really don't want to miss out on the information, if you sign up and pay for the class anyways, you'll get a recording of the class and you'll get the notes from the class. So just know that is an option. I'm trying to do everything I can to.
That's helpful when you can't make it.
It is, not everybody wants to self-lead through the notes. So at least you have the recording. Welcome. I'm going to do a quick introduction, only because some of you have been with me forever. Some of you have been with me quite a few times. Some of you know each other. Some of us have been together a long time, and some of us are brand new. So I feel like this is going to be a fantastic group because it's different. And every time we have a different group in the class, we learn different things. Because even though I have the notes, we could teach the same class 4 times in a row, but depending on who is in the class, it'll completely change the meaning of the class. So it's really cool how things unfold and develop. And I love class 6, 7, and 8 so much because no one's nervous anymore. And people share more. And it's less of me talking, more sharing. And I think you guys get a lot more out of that. So I'm going to start this way only because you're the newbie. So we'll start with Mike. You can introduce yourself to everyone. And if you want to give a little rundown of anything you want.
Anything in life. My name's Mike. I found Wellness 360 through Beth and Lindsay. I had Parkinson's and I got into the boxing program. As they grew, I grew with them, and I just keep hanging around.
And we love it. We love to get to know our people.
I think great.
Oh, thanks, guys.
This is a great place, and I miss it. Terribly.
And we miss you terribly.
I have a carpal tunnel situation going on. I'm married, and I've been with Beth forever. Not only in the exercise program, but this is my third mindfulness. So
Awesome.
happy to be here.
Wonderful. We're happy to have you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I took classes with Beth prior to the pandemic, and since then I have been doing her videos online, which are wonderful. I have osteoporosis, which is how I got started with the program.
But now you're vital.
Excuse me?
You said now you're what, vibrant? What was it? Vibrant?
She describes me as a vibrant.
Vibrant.
Yes, vibrant.
Her doctor told her she was vibrant.
Yes, which is wonderful, and I thank Beth for that because she's what kept me going.
But don't we love to, we don't have to just live. We can live vibrantly.
Yes, we can.
And it's a wonderful feeling.
And I have meditated for a number of years, and then I dropped off for a while, time to get back to it, and I thought I would start with a new slant to it.
I love it.
I'm Deb. I've been coming here for a while for physical therapy, and maybe this is my third
It is your third. Yeah, this is your third one.
class.
Awesome.
So I'm Lonnie. I've been here since day one.
Oh my gosh, so long ago. I wish I knew the exact date, but I had PowerPoints back then. This is how long we've come. We had PowerPoints and
We
it's
did a nutrition class for a
Mhm.
while. Anyhow, I've been coming here forever, and it helps with chronic pain, and that's great. So I keep coming
guys, this wasn't supposed to be a Bethathon.
Well, I missed that so much that I came last week thinking that we.
I was in my office and I heard someone and I heard Lindsay go, "Are you here for Beth?" And she's like, "Yeah, we have class." I'm like, "Oh, Lonnie, Lonnie." I love it. And
And I'm Deb, and I think I came here once for a massage.
awesome.
So I'm just here to learn.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Well, most of you already know me, but I'm Beth Perry. Why in the world did I get into mindfulness? Please excuse my smoker voice. I'm coming down off of a allergy attack, so I've got a little raspiness. And if I start having a coughing fit, I have my cough drops here. Sometimes when I talk too much, I start coughing. I learned all about my massage therapy program back in 2002 was all based on mindfulness. At the time, I was only in my early 20s and I did not care about mindfulness. I just needed to pass the course so I could work. I really fell in love with the director of the program. She was kind of a mentor for me through life. I had some pretty significant life situations that happened during that program. I learned a lot about myself during that program. And she really just guided me. And I believe with all of my heart that everyone is placed in your life for a reason and a season. And she was definitely one that planted the major seeds for mindfulness. Having said that, I've always called it, I didn't realize it till I watched the movie. I have kind of the Mr. Rogers background. I was raised on Mr. Rogers. And once I watched the movie, it all dawned on me why I am the way I am. Kindness and love. I truly am passionate about what I do. If I talk to you, it's because I really, truly care. And I really, truly do want to know more. It's just who I am as a being. I believe at every single person that I meet, you have a gift for me somehow, whether it's something you say, something you do, a lesson to learn. And if you approach life and approach people that way, all of a sudden people become less of a nuisance. They become more of a gift. So that's how I view life. And since my massage therapy background, I have really just dived into the world of meditation, mindfulness. I've taken some classes. I did not take the Jon Kabat-Zinn mindful-based stress reduction clinic, but I do take a lot of what I teach from his literature. I've read all of his books. I've read Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama, you name it. I don't take a specific religion. I go from all backgrounds, science, religion. I'm just interested. I'm interested in learning more. As of now, somebody told me science is really catching on. And his wife, he's been taking my senior mindfulness class, which is like a mini of this class. And his wife came home super excited that she just watched a seminar on something in the body that makes you calm. And he said, the vagus nerve. And she's like, how did you know about the vagus nerve? And he's like, Beth has been teaching me about this for years now. So science is really catching on. Medicine is really catching on. They're finding that if you have chronic pain, I am learning so much in recent podcasts, from adrenal fatigue to chronic pain management to disease management to Parkinson's. There is so much science now on mindfulness and how meditation and how stress reduction techniques can heal your body. And it's mind blowing to me. And I feel like I have this little secret, and I can't wait to tell people that, you can't necessarily change your diagnoses. We can't change the storm of life, but we can change our focus from the waves to the light at the end of the tunnel. And all of a sudden, that storm doesn't feel so bad anymore. That storm, you don't have to be ill through the storm. Once you realize, we're going to talk a lot today about the brain, but once you realize how much control we have over who we spend our time, what we spend our time doing, where our focus is in life, all you have to do is drop into one of these breathwork techniques that we're going to learn. We're going to try all kinds of different techniques. I'm actually going to have Jon Kabat-Zinn run us through our meditation today instead of myself. So you don't hear Marge Simpson. You actually hear, Jon Kabat-Zinn himself. And I really want to urge you to step out of the box and explore different people. It's really important to kind of get out there. I love Boho Beautiful. It's called Boho Beautiful Yoga. I love their meditations on YouTube. I go to their meditations all the time. Sometimes I just sit and meditate quiet and I just focus on my breath. Sometimes I use breath work, but we're going to do all of that in this class. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
Have you read the book from Dean Ornish, Undo It?
Not Undo It.
Undo It. Everything you said last class was in that book.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So confirming.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually am going to write that down. Let me go grab a pen. Undo It. I don't want to forget.
Dean Ornish, Dr. Dean Ornish.
He's the guy that does the heart program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's lots and lots of chapters about exactly this.
Does anybody want paper or a folder?
Yes.
Yes. Anybody need a pen? No, you got a pen? Do you have a color preference? It's an array. Do you need anything? Do you have a color preference?
I hate yellow.
I would have had a color preference to that, so I agree. Mike, do you need anything? Do you have a color preference?
Yeah, blue.
For you, sir. And you can obviously have more than one piece of paper. There you go. I stole it off of somebody's desk, and then you can steal it off of me. I'll go steal another one. Nicole's gonna come to work tomorrow and go, where's all the pens? Beth was here. All right, so, okay, undo it.
You can get it on Amazon.
Awesome. I am constantly audiobooking. You will always find me with these. I actually work with these all day. I have them on my head. I don't remember they're on there. And you'll be like, why do you have headphones on? Because my husband's always like, you on the phone? Like, oh, oops, I completely forget. But I'm audiobooking constantly because you can learn just so much. Let me get my notes for today. So does anybody have any idea of what mindfulness is? Anybody have, or even if you've been here quite a few times, do you have your own interpretation of what mindfulness is?
Thinking quietly or
Great.
not thinking. Just kind of relaxing and going to like a quiet place in your mind and just focusing on that.
When you say that, I can think of those memes where it has the scrambled brain and then it has the smooth brain. And, are you mindful or are you mindless? How about you, Lonnie? You've been here long enough. I'm sure you've got lots of interpretations.
I'll just do your definition. Bringing your focus to the present on purpose.
Yeah.
Without judgment.
Love it. Love it. Anybody else have anything different?
I was basically kind of saying like wanting to.
Yeah.
Just being in the moment.
How many times in life are we thinking about everything but the present moment?
All day.
All day long, right?
Squirrel.
Squirrel, yes. Yes. And I feel like I actually feel very blessed because if you've ever been in a massage room with me, you are my only focus. I am so present-minded when I'm doing what I do because that's what I love to do. So when I'm in there and you're like, I have chronic pain and my shoulder's hurting, you better believe I'm in your tissue. Like my brain, I am present, I am in the tissue. And I really truly think that started my meditation without knowing that it started my meditation. And I noticed it really changed how I felt through the day. And so now I've even went above and beyond, and now I'm dropping into meditation every day, whether I want to or not, just to do it on purpose because it's so powerful and there's so much self-care involved that every morning I'm like, okay, I'm running late, this and that. You have 10 minutes. Just, skip something. Maybe not take the dog for a quick walk before you go. Maybe you don't make your bed before you go. Maybe you leave the dishes in the sink, heaven forbid. But I'm choosing myself over other things, which can be very, very powerful. And it's very, very, I find I do it a lot better when I'm teaching the class because I'm practicing what I preach. So all of those definitions were great. Being quiet in your mind is never going to be quiet. Even in the best meditation practice, your mind is never going to be quiet. The difference is finding quiet in the noise. So as life is spinning around and all these things are going on, taking those few breaths to say, and I love that picture of the person meditating with the busy street in the background. I love that. That's what meditation is. It's not jumping into the busyness of the street. It's being present in your body in that moment when the storm is happening. And it's so healing to choose to be present. And it only needs to be 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, whatever you choose to make changes in the brain. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes to drop into it. You know, if I'm at like having a Lonnie day, she never did say what her day was, but from what she said, it didn't seem like it was pleasant. If I'm having a Lonnie day, there's sometimes I'm like, there is not a meditation practice that's going to get me out of this. Like I am at my wit's end. So those are the days that I might choose to take a walk. Those are the days I might choose to call a friend, a good friend, an inner circle friend, not a friend that's going to drag you down. That might be a day where I go to an extra church service if you're religious. That might be the day where you decide to take your spouse or your loved one or a girlfriend out to dinner to just have a glass of wine or eat an appetizer, just to be present. Finding a reason to be present. It does not have to be putting your robe on and going under a bonsai tree and sitting for 2 hours in the quiet. That is not what it has to be. It can be that, but that's not what it has to be. It can be so simple to just choose present moment thinking. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our opening meditation. As long as you're sitting with your spine elongated, feet on the ground, obviously you can't put your feet on the ground. So as long as you're connected to the earth, we're going to close our eyes. And for the next few moments, all I want you to do is pay attention to your breath. I don't want you to change your breath in any way. I just want you to notice. So we're taking that breath in and out. Notice, how does that breath feel in your body? Notice how busy your mind feels. Maybe notice how hard it is to notice your breath. Notice if your shoulders are moving, if your chest is moving, if your belly is moving with that breath. Maybe notice if you're having any discomfort as you're sitting there in your chair or on the floor. And without placing judgment on that pain, just notice. For the next few moments, I want you to breathe on purpose. And what that means is I want you to control your breath. We're going to take that inhale through the nose if you're able. And what I'd like for you to do is pull that inhale all the way down into the belly. And as that inhale switches to your exhale, I want you to slow that exhale down and extend that exhale as long as you comfortably can. Inhaling through the nose and slow and control that exhale. As you inhale through your nose, I want you to bring that breath in through the nose, into the belly. And just extend that exhale out. Noticing your connection of your feet or your body to the floor. Maybe you feel some tingling between your feet and the floor, and maybe you can envision roots growing out of your body into the floor, just uniting you with the ground. And for the next few moments, I want you to set your intention for just today's class, not the whole 8 weeks, just for today. And that intention can be anything from peace to healing, spirituality, friendships, enlightenment, relaxation, just whatever word resonates for you. Maybe it's the first word that comes to your mind. And whenever you're ready, just wiggle those fingers and toes. I want you to slowly open your eyes whenever it feels right to you. And if you chose to grab a sheet of paper and a pen, go ahead and write your intention down on that sheet of paper so you can keep it. And then as you're writing that down, I'm just going to explain why I'm having you write that down. So the reason I like to set that intention in the beginning of class is because you will find what you're looking for. Period. If you wake up in the morning and your script to yourself is, here we go again, guess what you're going to find? Groundhog's Day. If you wake up in the morning and you think, here we go again, my tremors, guess what you're going to notice through the day? How annoying your tremors are. If you wake up and think, oh, I bet you my spouse is going to be a real gem today, or you're already irritated with your mom or your kids or your nieces or nephews or your dog or whatever it is, you will find what you're looking for. So during the next 8 weeks, I really, really, really want you to keep this intention in mind. Whether you start to journal, whether that's for you, whether you keep your notebook by your bed and you just jot down, jotting it down, it gives it a place to root. So if you put things out of your head onto a sheet of paper, all of a sudden they become real. Because now they're pliable. Now you can move them, you can cross them out, you can change them, you can draw hearts over the eyes, you can do whatever you want with that word. And that word peace is going to have a different meaning for all of us. None of us are going to be the same. So whatever intention that is, whatever is behind that intention, just wake up each day with a new intention. So sometimes I will wake up and I'll have an intention and I'll have a really, really crappy day. And I will say out loud, nope, my intention is not that. My intention is this. And for example, we had to put my dog down last week. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. So I was a hot mess for 24 hours. And then I decided, okay, I need to focus on my new intentions. I can't bring my dog back, but I can make new memories. So I took my daughter's dog, who I haven't been able to take for walks because Maggie was too frail and he's too full of energy. So I couldn't walk him at the same time. I took him for a walk. So my intention was new beginnings. Wouldn't you know that we got attacked by a boxer within 5 minutes that ran out of someone's garage and attacked my dog? Screaming, I'm kicking, I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm kicking, I'm yelling. Nobody heard me. I am in a street. All the garage doors are open. It's 65 degrees and a dog is attacking my daughter's dog. So I just keep screaming. I keep kicking. I keep circling. I get home. I lose it because I'm petrified that she's hurt my dog. And I was too scared to look. I was too fight or flight. So I had my husband check her over. And then I sat there. I cried. I sobbed. I felt it. And then I said, okay, my intention was new beginnings. I put the harness back on my dog and we went back out because I was refusing to let circumstances take over. My intention was new beginnings. Being fearful of taking my dog for a walk is not a new beginning. So I decided to follow through. And we went on a very short walk. I picked a new direction. I was not stupid. I did not recreate the old scenario. but I was able to take him for a walk. I was able to calm myself down. I was able to calm the dog down. We had a great walk. We came back and we started off again. So every time that I go out, if my intention is, oh, I hope another dog doesn't attack me, I'm going to be what? Around every corner. Fearful. So make wise decisions. Use your past as experiences. What did she say today? Create your message from your mess. Or something. I'm going to have to ask her again. It was so powerful. But it was like, whatever that mess was in your life, create your message. And I forget how she put it, but it was so powerful how we can take stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones. It's all in how you view it. So take those intentions, hold them close to your heart, set those intentions in, and that is what's going to guide you through your day. If it's to develop relationships, that's what's going to be on your forefront. If it's a healthy life, that's what's going to be on your forefront. You're going to be less apt to grab that bag of Doritos if your intention was health. You're going to be like, you know what? I do enjoy it, and it's okay if I have a few, but I think I'm going to choose an apple because my intention is health. Where are you focused? Anybody have any questions, comments about anything? Stories to share? Okay. Sometimes I fire hose, so I always say that just so I can stop, reset, and give you guys a chance to talk. The science behind mindfulness, I think this is really powerful. If you're anything like me, I'm going to be more apt to follow through on something if I know the reason behind it. I'm not the person that the doctor says, oh, well, you take this pill and that's it. No, I want to know what the pill is. I want to know what the pill does. I want to know how it's going to benefit me. I want to know the side effects of this pill. And if she does not tell me why I'm taking it, she knows now I'm going to stop taking it. I might take it for 2 days and then realize this is stupid. I'm not doing this. So she knows now, listen, I'm giving you this because of this. I need you to finish it because this is the side effects if you don't finish it. And that's just who I am as a person. And my doctor is very good. And she knows who I am as a person. So she explains things to me. So that's how I learn. I don't know how you learn, but I think the science behind this stuff is really interesting. So I'm going to read this. Mindfulness, a practice rooted in present moment awareness, intimately involves the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex, situated behind the forehead, orchestrates executive functions like attention, emotional regulation, and decision-making. Mindfulness fortifies this region, fostering sharper focus and thoughtful responses. Simultaneously, mindfulness soothes the amygdala, the fear processing center, tempering its reactivity. Through consistent practice, the prefrontal cortex and amygdala establish a harmonious synergy, cultivating emotional resilience, augmenting cognitive function, and reshaping neural pathways. The intricate dance between mindfulness and the brain regions underlines the transformative potential of the practice in fostering, and my page cut out. So, fostering blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the rest of it said. So anyway, long story short, there's 2 portions of the brain. There's your prefrontal cortex, and there's your amygdala, which is a little peanut-sized part in the center of your brain. They work just like the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous phase. When one is on, the other is off. When the other's on, the other's off. So you can't have sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous phase working at the same time, which means you can't be running from a bear and digesting your food at the same time. The prefrontal cortex only works when the amygdala is shut off. The amygdala only works when the prefrontal cortex. How many of you have been in a terrible fight with someone and made a really logical thought during that fight? I bet none of us. Bar fights don't happen because people were meditating. You can't make, how many of you have been trying to balance your checkbook and it's stressful and you can't find that 5 cents and you sit there and you're angry and it just never comes, and the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh, it's right there. because they can't work at the same time. So same thing with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous phase. When you are in fight or flight and your fear center's turned on, the amygdala is turned on, your body goes into survival mode, which means adrenals are working, cortisol is working. The body is running from a bear. All the blood goes to the extremities so you can run. It does not care about digesting food because you don't need food to run from a bear because it's short term. The problem with nowadays is it's no longer short term because our perspective of what life is triggers our brain, which means if you think somebody is breaking into your home because you hear something hit the window, your body will react as if somebody were really breaking into your home. My aunt actually stimulated a sympathetic nervous phase response for weeks where she had to have doctor assist because she loves the ID channel and she watches it all the time. Who's murdering who? Who's raping who? She won't walk by a white truck, a big van. Forget it. She's not doing it because every white van out there is out to abduct children and women. So she has watched these shows for so long that she's literally, her brain has changed and she views life through the eyes of a serial killer. She does not view life through the eyes of a non-serial killer, of a normal human being. So her mom had called and said somebody was in the house. Well, she dropped into such a sympathetic nervous phase that her eyes dilated. She couldn't see for weeks. She had to go to the doctor because she put herself in she was profusively sweating. She couldn't get her temperature regulated because she set herself into such a sympathetic nervous phase thinking her mom was being murdered that her body would not let go. So for weeks, she had to go on medications and all kinds of things to get her body back into parasympathetic nervous phase. Nobody was in her house. It was just the thought that somebody could be in the house that stimulated this reaction. So be very cautious of how you view situations. Because if you're thinking worst case scenario, your body is reacting as if it were worst case scenario. Our body is about survival. So regardless of what happens, your first instinct is going to be negative. It's how the body survives. It's how the body works. But after this 8-week training, you're going to recognize that the first thought is negative, and you're going to be able to flip the script and change that thought to settle the body back down into that parasympathetic nervous phase. So what happens with the parasympathetic nervous phase is all the blood goes to the organs. This is why sleep is so important. You are in parasympathetic nervous phase when you sleep, unless you're having nightmares. When you have parasympathetic nervous phase, that's when your body heals. The body does not care about healing your wound if you're trying to escape a mountain lion. So the same thing happens if you're stressed from your workday, if you're stressed from your spouse, if you're stressed from the doctors, if you're worried about a procedure, regardless of what your life entails. For me, it's every time the phone rings and my grandparents with what they went through, every time the phone rings, I'm like, oh God, what is it again? And I instantly drop into that sympathetic nervous phase. But now I recognize that I'm doing that. So when I do it, I can flip the script. I'm sure it's fine. We'll be able to handle anything. As Lonnie always says, we've survived 100% of our worst days. Plain and simple. I can survive another one. So parasympathetic nervous phase is when our body can digest our food. So if you're running in that sympathetic nervous phase, you're going to end up with malnutrition, unprocessed food. You could be eating the healthiest diet in the universe, but if your body isn't processing the food correctly, you're not getting any of the nutrients. Constipation, diarrhea, butterflies in the stomach, acid reflux, heartburn, all of these things are from food that has not been properly digested. So if you are not chewing your food enough because we're eating in the car and we only have 15 minutes to eat, and you're cramming food down your face, first of all, if you're eating in the car, it's probably not a healthy meal to begin with. And second of all, you're not focusing on your food. So we'll be talking about this later, is this whole 8-pack is how to incorporate mindfulness into our world. So the first 8-pack was, what is mindfulness? The second 8-pack is, what are these meditations you speak of? We really focused on the different styles of meditation. This 8-pack is, okay, now we've got all this information. How are we going to incorporate it into our world? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
The cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
that's the damaging part.
Long term. Cortisol is really good for our bodies.
It is.
Short burst of cortisol is what helps heal our body. It helps with inflammation. When the cortisol comes in, it helps settle the inflammation. When you have chronic cortisol release, it is chronic inflammation you produce. That's where the belly fat comes from. That's where, you start to get fat around your organs. That is the one that gets stored in your fat tissue. So that's where you start gaining weight. It has a lot to do with adrenal fatigue. It has a lot to do with a lot of other things. So short burst of cortisol. The sympathetic nervous phase is really important. So you would not get out of bed in the morning if you did not have the sympathetic nervous phase. So it hits, it boosts you out of bed. You get that little cortisol, little adrenal spike. You go, and then you get your coffee and you go relax. But then you sit down to read, I'm not even going to say the paper, a good book. The paper is going to stimulate more stress. So you're going to sit down and read a good book. You're going to drink your coffee. You're going to watch the birds, whatever it is, sit in the sunlight. All of a sudden, now you're back in the parasympathetic nervous phase. And then you go a little bit longer, and your cat or your dog come around and you love them dearly. And then you're going to pet them, and it's going to release the feel-good hormones. And you're going to stay in that parasympathetic nervous phase. Then you're going to sit down to eat your breakfast. Because you're eating your breakfast and you're present-minded and you're already in that parasympathetic nervous phase, you're going to digest your food. And then you're going to go get in the shower. So you got that little burst of sympathetic nervous phase to get you to where you need to go. Then you get in the shower, you go back down to parasympathetic. It's this ebb and flow. What happens nowadays is you wake up and think, here we go again. I'm already exhausted. I don't even feel like I slept. I've got too many things to do today. Boom, you spike your sympathetic. You get out of bed, you trip over the cat that you typically love, but now you're angry because you stubbed your toe. All right, you're still in the sympathetic nervous phase. You sit down to read the newspaper. What good is there in the newspaper? Now you're like, oh my God, the president or this or that or this town or blah, 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 blah. You're still in the sympathetic nervous phase. You go to eat your dinner or your breakfast. You're not processing anything because you realize you're 10 minutes late for wherever you're going, and you're still in the sympathetic nervous phase. And then all of a sudden you start to snowball. So it's really important. Like for me, I can't always promise I can eat a relaxing lunch or dinner. So I make it on purpose. I meditate right after I eat my breakfast. So that way I sit by myself. I put my son on the bus. I sit by myself at the dining room table. I have a bay window, nothing but woods and nature. I watch out the bay window. I watch the bunnies. I watch the birds. I watch the deer, whatever's back there, the sun. And I eat, and then I go and meditate. And that gives my body time to really absorb the nutrients. I practice gratitude for what I ate. And it starts my morning off feeling really good. Once I leave the house, I can't promise that's going to continue. So I purposely do that every morning as my ritual. So I know every morning is started. I've started every morning off on purpose. So let's talk a little bit about the cognitive function of our brain. It does executive, attention, emotional regulation, decision-making, self-awareness, impulse control, memory retrieval, and memory integration. Ever been in a really stressed time in your life and you're like, why did I come in this room? How did I get here? What's that person's name?
When the kids were, I have 2 autistic kids. When we were still figuring out what was going on with them, I would drive to work and I remember getting in the car, and the same thing with doctor's appointments. I mean, it was just like this cycle.
You're on autopilot.
Work, school, doctors, back at work, and it was just this non-ending cycle.
And
On
that's when
top of that,
That's when I grew, like, when I gained so much weight.
how many surgeries have you had during that time?
Hit 22 altogether, but
Because health,
probably during that time, at least 7 or 8.
because your health, you're no longer caring.
Mhm.
You're surviving.
Mhm.
How many of us in life have had a moment where we were in survival mode? Whether it's self-inflicted, maybe it was a new diagnosis, caregiving, you know, whatever it is, you're just like, I just need to get through the day. We've all been there at some point in our life. Whether you've been a single parent, you've went through a divorce, you've had the loss of a loved one, loss of an animal, we've all been there. And it's okay to go there, and it's okay to be there for short times. The problem is our short times don't stay short, right? We push through and push through and push through, and then all of a sudden you stop self-caring and you're on this just downward spiral. You get sick on top of sick, you end up with diagnoses, you end up with digestive issues. I am talking to the choir. I am one of those people. I am the best high functioning anxiety person you'll meet. Thank God for the mindfulness techniques that I have to constantly try to keep myself in check. And let me tell you, when I am not constantly keeping myself in check, I will crash. I will crash and burn. And then I'm like, okay, body, I wasn't listening. I promise I'll do better next time. You know, so these classes are really good for me to teach because meeting someone with anxiety like me versus meeting someone with anxiety like somebody else, there's a big difference. I have a lot of calm moments when I'm being mindful. When I'm not being mindful, it's just an array of anxiety. So let's talk a little bit about executive function. Mindfulness, intentionally directing your attention to a specific focal point, such as the breath or bodily sensations, engage the executive function of the prefrontal cortex. So executive function is really just putting one step in front of the other. Executive function is that getting things done. It's, you know, this is so silly, but it just is what came to my head. It's putting a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together. You get the bread, you get the peanut butter, you get the jelly, you get the fork or the knife. You know, you just, it's putting those sequential things together in order to do things. How many times have we skipped, why does this pie taste crazy? Oh, I forgot the sugar. You know, it's being able to really be focused on what is at hand. What are we doing in this present moment? Attention regulation, mindfulness, involves sustaining attention without getting distracted by irrelevant thoughts, squirrel, or stimuli by engaging the attention and regulatory systems of the prefrontal cortex. So that attention regulation, my son is so good at calling me out. And I've given him permission to do this. And he will be telling me a story and he'll say, you're not listening. And I will put my phone down or my computer down and I will turn around. I will look at him. You are right. I was not listening and I am so sorry. Can you please start again? Because I want my kids to feel comfortable enough to call me out when my mom used to do this all the time. I mean, it was to the point where she could not multitask in any way, shape, or form. If I was talking to her, she wouldn't even be looking at me. And it would be that, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. How does it feel to not be heard? It's not a good feeling, is it? Ever been to a doctor's office and just feeling like when you left the doctor's office that you have no idea what just happened? It's not a good feeling. So practicing mindfulness really allows you to build relationships because you can be present without being distracted constantly. Our minds were not meant to multitask. So if you're doing something and someone's talking to you, you're not listening. You can't. It's not physically possible. You might catch bits and pieces, get the gist, but practicing mindfulness, remember, mindfulness is only paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. That's all it is. You don't have to be a master of mindfulness. You don't have to do anything. It is bringing a practice into your life of bringing your attention to the present moment on purpose. That's it. That's all it is. We don't have to think any more into it. The more you do that, the more you turn on the prefrontal cortex. The more you turn on the prefrontal cortex, the more gray matter builds, and the more you're able to focus and pay attention when it matters. Emotional regulation. Mindfulness encourages the observation of emotions, promoting a non-reactive and accepting response to emotions without attachment or judgment. When you are not practicing mindfulness and someone comes out at you at the grocery store and starts screaming and yelling at you, what do? You get defensive, don't you? You're like, excuse me, I did not do anything wrong. That was my mean voice. I'm very scary, aren't I? Let's say your spouse attacks you or you feel attacked and you are not being mindful. A non-mindful reaction would be a reaction. You don't even think about it. If someone calls you out and calls you a name, boom, it comes right back out. Oh yeah, well, you're blah, blah, blah. Or that one time you did this, or, so when we practice mindfulness, you'll hear me say this a million times in the next 8 weeks, we practice the pause. What happens when you practice mindfulness is you take a deep breath in and you purposely hit the button to reset the body. You take that breath in, you focus on the breath, you exhale, boom. I always think of that Staples button, that easy button. You hit the button, you've turned on your parasympathetic nervous phase, and you're now reacting, or you're responding, not reacting to the situation. So when that person comes at you, you take that breath, you exhale, and you say, I don't feel like right now is a good time to talk. Maybe when we've cooled down a little bit, we can come back and discuss this. I think that maybe you were saying things because you're angry, and I hear that you're angry. I'm going to step away for a couple minutes. Because talking to someone that's not being mindful is not in your favor. They're going to say things, they're going to do things because they're being reactive. When you are being reactive, we do not think with our cognitive brain. We say things we don't mean. Or you do mean, and maybe they shouldn't have come out in the way they come out. We all do it. We've all done it. But isn't it better to turn on that parasympathetic nervous phase, turn on that cognitive brain, take that deep breath, take that pause, and not have to go back and apologize later? It feels really nice. Again, it happens by just being present-minded. Decision making, making conscious choices about where to direct attention and how to respond to thoughts and emotions by promoting a non-impulsive and reflective approach. Ever try to make a decision when you're stressed? I bet you don't make great decisions when you're stressed. None of us make great decisions when we're stressed. It's really important to take that moment, just like that checkbook balancing. Take a moment, step away, take a couple deep mindful breaths, bring your attention to the present moment, turn off that sympathetic nervous phase, reapproach in a present mind. Because nothing good happens when you reapproach in a mindless mind. Mindfulness helps with self-awareness, observing one's thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. I knew when that dog attacked me that I was having a breakdown because I was scared. I could attach the emotion. I knew that I was fearful. And I said this to my husband, how can I put 2 dogs down in 1 week? Because my fear was the dog would have been hurt, or my dog would have bit that dog, and we would have ended up having to put. So there was a lot of fear based, but because I practiced mindfulness, I was able to go into the kitchen, feel the emotions, recognize and name the emotions, and then make the choice. My intention was to start new. This is not my new. And to go back out there. Not to say I do it all the time, But that was a very mindful moment for me. So sometimes when we react and we're angry and we have all these feelings and we're on that emotional roller coaster and we want to be the victim because it feels really good to be the victim. You know, I got this diagnosis and I did nothing wrong and I got divorced and I wasn't my fault and all of these things and all of these emotions because we feel like we're what? We're out of control. What happens when you're drowning and you're trying to fight back in the ocean? You do what? You drown. So when you're on that emotional roller coaster and you feel like you have no control, you're going to drown. There's no other ands, ifs, or buts about it. You're going to feel really bad. You're going to get yourself in a state of being sick, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally. You're going to get depressed. You're going to get anxious. Your body's going to react accordingly, and you're going to spiral. Now, having a reaction and crying and being angry and all that is perfectly normal. Taking the mindful breath, putting labels to what you're feeling, understanding that it's not the toaster. I'm not having this reaction because of one event. I'm having this reaction because I've had a lot of things that have come up. I'm probably feeling things from I'm having fears, I'm having anxieties from other situations coming in. You can put it on paper, you can organize it, you've now got control. You can take that breath, you can respond on purpose instead of the waves making you react and then drowning. And impulse control. Responding to stimuli in a non-reactive manner, using a response, not a reaction. I cannot count. I remember I was teaching yoga class, senior yoga class, and I had somebody stand up in the middle of yoga class at the end. She always comes 10 minutes late. I'm sure I've told this story before. Always comes. And then she comes in and she talks to everybody in the yoga room and she slams things and then she yells at people for being in her seat. Now we're in the middle of a meditation when this is happening. Everyone is irate. Well, I finished the class and she raised her hand. First time she ever came on time. And she said, "You owe us 8 minutes. You talked about your family for 8 minutes and I want that 8 minutes." Now I could have very easily, lots of things in my ammunition box that I could have shot back. And you'll find me, and Mike, you see me a lot in big groups. You'll find someone will say something to me and I will inhale and I will smile. And you know, when I inhale and I smile, that is me hitting the easy button. It's hitting that restart button and going, I hear you and I respect your opinion, but this is the way our class goes. And if you don't like to take this class in the way that this class goes, you're welcome to not take it. That's your choice. And then I had a line full of people. I was late to my first patient because they were all telling me, "You stop telling stories about Jackson. We're not coming back. We come to hear your life and your stories and this and that." And it was very rewarding for me to hear that people are coming to class to hear. They care enough about my life that they want to hear. And also I felt really powerful to think, well, you don't have to take my class. Super simple. You don't like it, don't take it. And when you can walk through life feeling like that, well, you don't like the way I make my coffee, then make it yourself. It's really simple.
Switch to tea.
Yeah, switch to tea or don't stop over. That's okay too. But you can respond. You're not carrying other people's stuff. So when you practice mindfulness, it gives you a lot of power back. And then memory retrieval, non-biased recalling and integrating past experiences with present awareness. Every single reaction you have in life, every single one comes from something you've been through. Whether it's something your church taught you, your parents taught you, an event that happened to you, that is why every single one of us will react differently in the same situation. Ever wonder why two people experience the same thing and have two completely different perspectives? It's because we all look through the lenses of our past. So when you can recognize this is happening because of XYZ, you get to take control of how you view life. This is not today. This person is not the person. I had someone say, "I almost left your class because I found out your name was Beth and I worked with a Beth and I hated her and she made my life miserable and I couldn't get past it." And I'm so glad I allowed myself to get to know you because now I can reset my thought of what Beth was. But think of how many things she would have missed had she just left. So recognizing, okay, that was Beth for my past, not Beth for my present. I'm going to stay and I'm going to relearn who Beth is in my life. But that's a mindful moment. Questions, concerns, thoughts?
I took a class once where the pause I thought was interesting. And our first assignment for the week was to pause. No matter what was going on, all those ups, to just pause every time. It's an amazing skill.
Is it not powerful?
Oh, very, very. Everyone came back and said, one gentleman said, my wife knows, but he didn't tell her anything about it. He said at the end of the week, she said to him, you're really different.
You know, it's funny you say that, Kathleen. I tell people all the time, it takes 8 weeks, according to studies, to make a change in the brain. That's why the courses are in 8 weeks, because you're more apt to do it when you're here and you know you have to come to class and talk about it. But somebody else is going to notice before you notice. The changes are so subtle in your own body that it's normally someone else. It was my husband coming to me going, wow, you handled that differently than I expected. And I was like, yeah, I really did. It'll be somebody else noticing in a situation. Anybody have any experiences like that?
My problem is I don't pause, and I know I'm supposed to, and I just fly off the handle immediately, and it's such a terrible response.
Well,
Because
it
I'm
takes
not
time,
thinking.
though. It takes time to remember to do that. It isn't instant.
I just need a red flashing light or something, you know?
You need like Beth to flash in front of your face. Just a picture of Beth. Yeah, it's not easy. Mindfulness practice is not mainstream. This is not the norm. I thought it was. I was really in rude awakening when I found out, you really think that way? That's really it.
Although certain schools are now
It is becoming more mainstream.
including meditation in, like, before they start class or after they get back from gym, you know. or
To
they'll
calm
pop
everything
up.
down.
Yeah.
That's
a
awesome.
Great idea. That's wonderful.
It just takes time.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not practicing the pause right now. Maybe it's incorporating the mindful thinking, the present minded thinking in your day to day. And then all of a sudden, the pause will come. Just being present minded on a good day. Do not wait to practice this when you're in a stressful situation. It's not going to work. It'd be like giving a policeman his gun and a badge and say, go, have a good time, go into the city. You know, it doesn't work. It's training. You're training right now. So it's paying attention to the present mind on purpose on a good day. The more you incorporate it on a good day, all of a sudden, Bill's going to come at you and you're going to, and it's going to come, it's going to be automatic and you're going to be like mind blown. Everyone's going to stop and go, oh my gosh, I just paused. And it's going to take all of the stress away. It'll happen when you're least expecting it if you practice the fundamentals during a good time. Thinking about breathing in a bad time is not going to work because the cognitive brain's not on. So you got to train it.
We did a lot of that training with my kids when they were little, doing stuff while they were calm, practicing those coping skills. And then when they were in their heightened state, okay, take a deep breath. One day I got a call when Beth was working on me.
Oh, I'll never forget this.
My kids were like going nuts. And I just said, is there any blood involved? No. Okay, I'll talk to you when I get home.
Just as calm as that.
I hung up. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, they're just fighting. It's okay.
But it was like death.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, I don't want to make it sound like it was a normal sibling fight. We're talking weapons and death. And it was like, and Lonnie's just sitting there like, it's okay. Like, just take a deep breath and I'll be home soon. Like, I'm like, do you want me to speed up the treatment? No, I'm good. So let's talk really quickly about the amygdala, because I want to make sure we get our final meditation in. The amygdala is that little tiny part of the brain that, when practiced and when strengthened, will grow. So you ever meet these people that have nothing but negative to say? Those people that react all the time, the people that fly off the handle, the people that are Debbie, I call them Debbie Downers. There's some Debbies in here now, so it's probably not the best name to call them, but I'll come up with a new name. But like those people that are just constantly negative, they have worked their amygdala so much that it is so big, they can't help it. It is a natural reaction. So emotional processing, when it receives sensory input from the environment, especially potential threats, remember, perceived or real, it quickly assesses the emotional significance and triggers an immediate emotional response. That's why you can't practice that pause. It initiates the fight or flight response. So our body is like, okay, that's the red flag that sends all of those neurotransmitters into our body to be ready to fight this bear. It forms and consolidates emotional memories. Why do I remember the things I'm angry about so much better than the good things? You know, it's why a certain color sets you off, like yellow. I'm the same with yellow. It's why a certain person sets you off. It's why a certain voice sets you off, because those emotional memories, our body keeps the score. It plays a role in recognizing emotional expression in others and is involved in formation of emotional bonds and social attachments. So that's why we feel more comfortable with certain types of people and uncomfortable with certain types of people. It helps us to build relationships, but also break relationships. So some people get really comfortable in really unhealthy relationships. Why is that? You know, we get comfortable with certain things. Stress response contributes to the physiological and behavioral changes associated with stress. It influence on decision making, attaches emotional significance to various options that impact choices and preferences, sometimes result in risk adverse and cautious decision making. So this is why we respond. Sometimes we do things that I remember my very first car, we lived in West Virginia, which means everything's on a hill. And my first car, the emergency brake didn't work. So I'd park, and if I forgot to put it in first gear or reverse, because I drove a clutch, it would start going down the hill. So normal, mindful reactions would be let the car go. Stress-induced reactions is chase the car down and try to jump in it, so it can run over you, So we do really dumb things when we're really stressed. And then after you think, oh my gosh, that was stupid. But when you're in that fight or flight, you aren't thinking, you're reacting to life. And it has a role in anxiety disorders. Dysregulation of the amygdala has been implicated in anxiety disorders. Overactivity of the amygdala is associated with heightened anxiety conditions and post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you've ever been through a really significant time, and I've learned very recently within the last few years, PTSD is not just because you went to war. PTSD can be from a car accident, from a divorce, from a relationship, from abuse, for all kinds of different things, because our body holds on. So when we can practice mindfulness over fearful thinking, and we're automatically going to have that fearful thought, but when you stop with the pause and you rethink the thought and you choose how you're going to go down that road, that grows the gray matter in the cognitive brain and it decreases the amygdala power. So those fearful thoughts are going to be less reactive. And the cognition is going to be easier to come to. It takes time. It's practice. If you lose 50 pounds and then you're like, oh, I met my goal weight, and then you go back to McDonald's every day, what's going to happen? It's consistency of making one step at a time. And maybe that one step is merely you dropping into 5-minute meditation, practicing the pause, being present-minded, going for a mindful walk, doing mindful coloring books. There's so many different things you can do. Remember, don't overthink. It is being present-minded on purpose without judgment. That's it. Have a conversation with a grandchild. Have a conversation with a spouse or a loved one. Go for a walk with your favorite pet. Sit on the back porch on the swing and just watch the sunset or rise. Sit down by the water and watch the waves come in. Making these choices on purpose. That is what changes the brain. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. Sometimes people think, oh my gosh, well, I have to meditate for 20 minutes and I have to do it for this many times a day and I have to this. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. You have to be present mind on purpose at some point in your day and make these conscious choices, and your brain will change. As anything, the more you put into it, the quicker it'll change. But if you stop, it'll stop. When I start getting hyper anxious and I start thinking negatively, that's not who I am as a person. I know immediately. And then I look back at my life and I think, who have I been spending my time with? What have I been listening to? What are the thoughts in my brain? What is my first instinct in the morning? What am I saying? What is my word? What am I doing? I was talking to my girlfriend after we put our dog down, and I was just negative. She looked at me, she goes, what's your script? I said, what? She goes, what's your self script? I said, what do you mean? She goes, what are you telling yourself in the morning? I'm like, here we go again. I'm like, oh man, well, that stinks. She is a good friend. And that's what you need in those moments. You need that friend that can look at you and say, what's your script? What are you telling yourself? Who are you spending your time with? How are you eating? How are you exercising? Are you moving? Are you self-caring? What are you doing? It's not about being perfect all the time. It's about creating a support network that is not afraid to call you out when you're not. And being respectful and realizing, oh, you know what? You're right. So now on purpose, every morning, as soon as I open my eyes, I'm like, it's going to be a good day. I'm going to make it a good day. Good things are going to come to me today. And then I start my day. So meditation, it increases the gray matter, the hippocampus, and the memory and learning. You will grow more gray matter. This is all scientifically studied. The prefrontal cortex, leading to improved cognitive abilities. You're more present. You're not going to fall as much because you notice the shoes in front of you because you're in the moment. You're not planning your Wegmans grocery trip. You're going to see the car that doesn't stop at the stoplight because you're present. You're in the moment. So we tend to make more mistakes when we're not present-minded thinking. The more you practice this, the more present you are, the more less apt you are to be harmed in some other way. It reduces the gray matter in the amygdala. It decreases that stress reactivity. It enhances connectivity between the areas associated with attention and sensory processing. It improves your focus and memory. We're less likely to squirrel through life. It activates the DMN, the default mode network, decreasing mind wandering. So when you go to bed at night and you go to solve all life's problems at 11 o'clock at night, you're able to drop into a meditation and you're able to turn that off. I am a big dreamer. And when I find that I'm dreaming and I can't pay attention, in the meditation where we connect our feet to the earth, it's called grounding. If you go for a walk outside, you notice the earth under your feet. It pulls you out of your brain and pulls you into your body. So it really helps with grounding you and bringing you present-minded. Reduction in cortisol levels. It protects the brain from the negative impact of chronic cortisol release. And it supports neuroplasticity, which is restructuring of the brain. If you're growing gray matter, your brain is changing, and you will notice it. So it takes regular, sustained mindfulness practice to contribute to lasting neuroplasticity. Consistency is the key. You must make it a habit. I don't care what habit you're making, whatever one you choose, even if it's choosing to flip the script or choosing to be mindful in a conversation or sitting down and focusing on your breath for 5 seconds, just bringing yourself to the present moment on purpose. It takes at least 8 weeks for the meditation to start changing the brain. I have 5 minutes here. You can start with 2 to 3 minutes. If 5 minutes I was going to do a 20-minute meditation with Jon Kabat-Zinn. I backed it off to 10 because this is the first time for some people. And I'm like, let's start off slow and see how it works. And then we'll go from there. And short, consistent, focused meditation is better than the occasionally distracted meditation. There are times where there is nothing that can ground me. I am in my head and I can't get out of it. I sit down and meditate. I am pulling myself back to my breath 800 times. It's not worth it. Get up. Get up and move.
That's what happened.
You just couldn't.
Just breathing for like 2 minutes every hour.
Because it wasn't one that you were going to be able to drop into.
Okay.
But anybody have any questions or comments before we do our final meditation?
I just have to tell you a quick story.
Of course.
I pulled into my driveway. I just got back from Wegmans. I took my bags inside. I didn't even unpack them because I knew outside our front door was this huge mirror that we had ordered from Amazon. It was 36 by 24. And it was stacked against the door. And I did get out of the car to try and pull it through the garage, but it was too heavy for me. So I said, well, I'll just get it from the front door. So I grabbed the mail and opened up 2 letters. And within 5 minutes of my closing the garage door, I came to the front door, mirror was gone.
Wow.
That has never happened to us before. So I decided I'm not stressing out about this. Normally I would be like, ah!
Yeah.
So Amazon replaced it without any cost. I called the police, let them know. They came over and I called all my neighbors. It's just, our neighborhood is safe. Somebody just beelined into our driveway, grabbed that mirror and left. And I didn't even see it.
Scary.
Very scary.
It can be very, very scary in this world. And that's why I say make cognitive choices. So now you want to be cautious about locking your doors. And now you want to make, but you don't want to live in the fear state.
Well, we have a security system, but we don't have a ring bell. We're getting one now.
Yeah. So you made a message out of your mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've decided, okay, if this is going to happen, I'm going to be prepared.
Right.
But we don't live in the fear. We
No.
make conscious cognitive decisions, but you don't live in the fear. It's not easy to do. I sit up here acting as if, oh, it's easy peasy. Just don't live in that fear. No, it's not. It takes practice.
But I was glad I wasn't able to go into my
It's huge.
usual panic attack and flip out. I didn't do that.
And that's a big pause.
Yeah.
We have to give ourselves credit for these little tiny successes. And they're not little tiny, they're huge. But we have to celebrate those moments because those moments will change your future. Even if it's 10 minutes of not having that cortisol pumping through your body, that's 10 minutes of healing. You know what I mean? That you would typically be diseased. It's 10 minutes of healing.
You focused on what you could control.
Exactly. That was just what I was going to say. I have no control what happened. I can't fix it.
Mhm.
So I just need to back up.
And you
You're
did all the
absolutely
steps that you could control.
Yeah.
And look how you reacted to the situation. You responded to the situation.
Mhm.
That's huge. Really huge. I love that. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
If you had to quantify how many times a day you can realistically be mindful, do you have any sense of that?
Good question.
I bring mindfulness in on purpose.
How often a day would you say?
So when I wake up in the morning, I set my intention. That's mindful. When I go downstairs and I'm with my son, I keep my headphones upstairs so I can be present with him. That's mindful. I eat my breakfast undistracted. That's mindful. I sit and I do my 10 minutes of meditation on purpose. I set a timer, distracted. I do all the things. I take a deep breath. There's times I blow in here and I don't say hello to everyone because I'm so focused on what I need to do. I'll go back to my room. I'll unpack all this and that. I take a breath. I go in. Hi, how's everybody doing today? That's mindful because I'm building relationships. I try to think of something special, like if I'm in a boxing class, I want to connect with these people. So I think of one thing from everyone. How's your husband doing? How's your grandchild doing? How's your dog? How's your this? How was your trip? How's this? I don't hit everybody every week, but I purposely am trying to build a trust in the people that I want to invest in. So building trust is mindful, and I'm doing that on purpose. It's not just something that comes naturally. It's investing in people. So I'm trying to build relationships. I'm not perfect. You know, just like me calling my husband, hey, can you meet me for 15 minutes? He drove 15 minutes to go for a 15-minute walk with me. That was mindful. I have 15 minutes to be in the sunshine, be present with my family, knowing I'm going to get home late. That's mindful. I go to bed early so I can lay there and either do a body scan, or I can read, or I can do something present-minded. That's mindful. So if you really stop and think about how many times a day I take that deep breath on purpose, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's not constant, and I have good days and bad days. But I consciously make the effort to check in with myself on a daily basis. Where am I today? Is this a day that I'm going to train for a marathon? Is this a day that I'm going to just get by and preserve my energy? Is this a day that I'm going to talk to someone that's draining? Or is this a day that I'm going to talk to someone that lifts me up and supports me? Is this a day that I'm going to take that extra patient because I can squeeze them in? Is this a day that I'm going to leave a few minutes early because I feel like I really need to? Like, you make mindful decisions every day, but you're not going to know what your body needs if you don't check in. And that's mindful. So I don't know if you can quantify it, but if you put it in paying attention to the present moment on purpose, think of how many times we can do that in a day. Hundreds of times we can do that in a day. And it might be once one day, and it might be 100 times the next. So
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that was true. Does that fluctuate?
always. Depends on what you have going on in life. It fluctuates, but the more mindful moments you can take, the more pauses you can take, the more healthy and well-rounded that you'll be. Oh, trust me, I know it immediately when I have not been mindful for a couple days in a row. My husband's the first to go, whew, how you doing over there? How's your sleep going? Oh. Again, your spouses will be the first to acknowledge that you're being mindful. They'll be the first to acknowledge you're not being mindful. When I say to my husband, Wanda is my good friend that I go to. She's one of my girls. My husband will say, have you seen Wanda lately? Because he knows how joyful I am. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording because this is the meditation. One of the meditations we have, there's one in the email that I sent out beforehand. So we don't need to do that. So I'll end that.